Take. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, this is just about 3 o'clock, and we are supposed to start our the second webinar of the series, which Department of Earth Science is conducting mainly for students. And I have privilege to welcome you all on behalf of Department of Earth Sciences. I see that there are many people who have already joined, and I see that there are many people watching live stream on the Google, on the YouTube live streaming. Well, this is our second webinar, and if you have attended our first webinar, you probably would have realized that we in the Department of Earth Sciences strive to, or our main effort is to reach out to students in as many number as possible, because during this particular difficult times we thought it is the student community probably which would require more our help than any other community, being as teachers. So all of us have tried our part to reach out to as many students as possible, and our first webinar in this series was in the last month from 4th to 7th September, and we got the overwhelming response for that. In fact, some of you, if you could not watch that time or could not participate at that time, it is available in our university's PU webinar YouTube channel. And I just saw yesterday that these 4 lectures delivered by Professor M.S. Pandian already garnered more than 6,000 views. So, this is very encouraging for all of us that we whatever we are trying from our side is actually reaching out or being helpful to the student. So let me formally welcome all of you. I think I should start by addressing Professor Honorable Vice Chancellor Gurmeet Singh ji, who will be with us shortly. Professor Balakrishnan, Director Studies, is already with us. Professor M.S. Pandian, Dean, School of Applied Sciences, Physical, Chemical and Applied Sciences, is with us. My many faculty colleagues, I can see Professor Srinivas Murthy, Professor Pramod Singh, Dr. Kusuma, Dr. Manisha, and many of our colleagues are watching probably YouTube live. So with that, let me just give a few words about our department, and anyway, let me reiterate that we in the department take a lot of pride in our students, and this is the reason that we try to do as many things as possible for the students. Last webinar, as I just now mentioned, was first such attempt, and it was delivered none other than by the founder of the department, if I can say, Professor M.S. Pandian. So it was very fitting that he started this series of webinars for the student. And the topic which Dr. Manisha Kumari chose for this particular webinar, the applications of fossils, I was just wondering, what could be the most fundamental aspect of human curiosity than understanding the origin and evolution of life. And this is something which is directly related to that. It also reminds me of the earlier ventures of Charles Darwin and Charles Lyell, which also dependent on some aspects of past life and fossil life, paleontological studies. So this would be, I hope, would be very interesting to know what are the commercial aspects and what are the practical applications of the fossils which Dr. Manisha Kumari would be delivering. Before we go to that, let me formally welcome each one of you to this webinar. I see my other faculty colleague, Dr. Nurul Afsar, Dr. Lasita also joining us, and I also understand that there are many other faculty from the Mohanlal Sukhadia University, Professor Avdij and Professor Khosla, and others also probably are watching this live. So I welcome all of you. And before further ado, I would request our Dean, School of Physical, Chemical and Applied Sciences, Professor M.S. Pandian, to speak a few words before we go to the inaugural address, which actually would be delivered by Professor Gurmeet Singh, but in his place I have requested our Director Studies to say a few words before he actually joins and addresses us. So may I now request Professor M.S. Pandian to speak a few words. Sir.
Good afternoon to all. We are honored to have our respected Vice Chancellor, Professor Gurmeet Singh, who will be joining soon to inaugurate this. Professor Balakrishnan, who is Director of Studies of Pondicherry University, for this lecture series. So this outreach program is an outcome of conscious effort by our Vice Chancellor, Professor Gurmeet Singh, and all the faculty members of Pondicherry University to extend a helping hand to students of higher education institutions across our country during the difficult time, particularly to help them in their learning process. And this particular lecture series is in line with the outreach program or several such outreach programs that are being conducted by Pondicherry University for students across the country. And now that many of you geology students have participating in this program, I would encourage all of you to spare some time to look at the website of Pondicherry University to know the various academic programs and particularly about the Department of Earth Sciences at Pondicherry University. The website has been modernized recently thanks to the efforts of Professor Balakrishnan, who actually belongs to our faculty, but now he is Director of Studies at Pondicherry University. So please spend some time to look at the website of Pondicherry University to know more details about our department and about the university. I hope you will enjoy the lectures by Dr. Manisha Kumari, who has significant expertise in micropaleontology. I'm happy to know that her guru is also welcome, sir. You have directly or indirectly contributed to the teaching of paleontology in our department through your student. So I hope you enjoy this program and derive as much benefit as you can. Those who are participating in this through Google Meet should be able to interact more directly, and others also should be able to interact by posting your questions in that box. Right? So, thank you so much for choosing to participate in this outreach program. Hope you enjoy this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your kind words. And yeah, you have actually, I forgot to mention certain things which you have pointed out, and thank you for that. Now may I request, let me first formally welcome Professor Balakrishnan, who I think all the geology community knows very well. I mean, he is a stalwart in the geology, and we feel very proud that he is part of our department. He actually is very encouraging to all this activity, and we actually get benefit out of his being director to organize many such things. He helps us a lot. Now also he has spared his time. He, as Professor Pandian said, being director is extremely busy in so many things, particularly during this admission time, but still he could spare some time to address all of us during this inauguration. So may I now request Professor S. Balakrishnan to say a few words.
Yes. My dear colleagues and research scholars, and also other participants who are participating in this webinar series of our department. Indeed, this is a very proud thing for me that our department is doing such activities, because these outreach activities, we do not know how much benefit it may, it may accrue to various people. Because we know that around our Pondicherry, there are many colleges that have geology department, but they may not have been endowed with the faculty with all the specialists. They may have limited. Some of the colleges have only 1 or 2 faculty members who are conducting their BSc program. If such students of such places can log on to our webinar series, they will get immensely benefited and also motivated towards the subject of geology or earth sciences. So that is a very useful thing that in our department we have faculty with almost a wide spectrum of specializations and areas of interest. So this is going to, we have to give benefit of our faculty's expertise not only to our own students but also to those students across the country where such benefit they don't get it. That is one thing. Secondly, today's topic is fossils. Fossils is something that very fascinating to say the least to everybody, specialist or not specialist. In fact, when this topic came, what immediately struck me was when I was in the school, as a school, day excursion, we used to go one-day excursion sometimes. So in one of the classes, when I was there, we went to this Tiruvakkarai, because from where I studied, Dindivanam, Tiruvakkarai is very close by. So we went in the in school bus, landed there, had some lunch, and came back. It's more like a picnic-like thing. So there, Tiruvakkarai is well known for these fossil woods. So when we saw the fossil wood, we were all thrilled. We all thought it is the wood. Actually, when you see from a distance, characteristics externally of wood. But when you go and really try to lift or when you touch, then only you realize they are not wood, they are fossilized. So that kind of a thing creates a lot of curiosity among people and scientific curiosity. So they are doing geology like me or may not. But the basic thing is it creates a scientific curiosity, how this is formed, when this was formed, this processes, how this is the thing that the curiosity we should build, particularly at very young age. And I think apart from this webinar, I think later when the situation improves, we may also have some programs where the high school students can come to our department and see the minerals, fossils, and other labs, so that they get some kind of curiosity towards science. And fossils, is a very wonderful thing. At any level, for specialized level or not. Just yesterday, I happened to see this paper, which Nature Geoscience paper, on this Permo-Triassic boundary. They used brachiopods to say that how the mass extinction occurred. What is the reason for it? So one of the greatest mass extinction occurred during PT, Permo-Triassic boundary. So that thing happened to be mentioned in the through the fossils they could. So without fossils, like when we go into Precambrian or Archean, we are like blindfolded because we do not know exactly what is their exactly what is their the environment of formation of these rocks and many things. We are not able to understand. It is much more difficult to study than those rocks which are endowed with the fossils. So these are the many things that the geologist also will appreciate the usefulness of fossils, and the others collectors will appreciate the beauty of the fossils. There are a lot of amateurs who collect also these fossils. One such amateur, when I happened to go to Tiruchirappalli, that a place called the Garudamangalam. One of the collector is Subramaniam or somebody those days, I don't remember his name, probably Subramaniam. He had in his own backyard, in his own in front of his house, he had a variety of collection of ammonites and fossils. Like he is not a geologist, so like that. And I also remember in many of the people were attracted to us fossils. Even when we were in Roorkee, that great Ganga Canal was dug some centuries ago. That time, the many engineers, civil engineers who were responsible for digging the canal during British period, just after I think Great Famine, they all got fascinated. Some of them got fascinated for the fossils, and they became paleontologists. So like that. So it is a very interesting subject, and I wish our participants enjoy this 2 days webinar as much as I will be doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You have pointed out very right examples. Tiruvakkara, mentioning of Tiruvakkara also reminded me that now the importance of these fossils and this basic curiosity related field is also reaching to the layman and the politician, because I recently heard that Tiruvakkara has been chosen to make a geological park from the Tamil Nadu government side. Already there is a small area which is a GSI geological park type of thing, but now Tamil Nadu government has taken up a large area for showcasing this kind of natural archives to the normal public. So this importance of fossils are, I mean, as you said, it is, whether you are amateur or a non-geologist, it is, everybody understands this. So before we go to this very interesting topic, this functions last formality, if I can say a formality, but that is a very important part, is to thank everyone who has made effort to make this happen. And for this, may I request my colleague Dr. Lasita to please propose a vote of thanks. Of course, we still would be waiting for Professor Gurmeet Singh to join us and address us, because he is a very, very motivating and inspiring speaker, and I always look forward to hear him. And I hope that he would be joining us soon. But in meantime, let us not delay the thanking part of those people who have helped us to organize this. So may I now request Dr. Lasita to please propose a vote of thanks. Lasita, you have to unmute your mic.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Honorably respected colleagues and dear participants, this is the second webinar in the webinar series of our department. We have received overwhelming responses for the last webinar conducted by Professor M.S. Pandian, and we expect the same this time also. And on behalf of the Department of Earth Sciences, I feel immense pleasure to propose vote of thanks for the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Gurmeet Singh, with us. Actually, so actually we would love to hear him, because his speeches are always filled with stories and experiences. So we'll hope that he will join with us soon. And I would like to extend my thanks to Professor Balakrishnan, Professor S. Balakrishnan, Director Studies. See, actually, he is one of us in the department. We are proud to say that, and one of the prominent scientists in the field of earth sciences. So I thank him for being with us today. And I further extend my thanks to Professor M.S. Pandian, Dean, Department School of Physical, Chemical and Applied Sciences, for his guidance and support throughout. And thank you, sir, for being with us today with an extremely relevant address to the gathering. I am very grateful to Professor Rajneesh Bhutani, our head of the department, for his support and guidance throughout the webinar series. I thank Dr. Manisha Kumari, who is an expert in the field of paleontology, for choosing a very relevant topic for the webinar. I would especially thank our colleagues for their unfaltering support throughout. And my deep sense of thanks go to our participants who choose to be with us today. I thank the coordinators and moderator of the webinar for organizing such a great event. Last but not least, I thank the Computer Center for extending the technical support. Once again, I thank everybody for being with us today. Have a great day. Thank you.
And now it is my duty to thank Dr. Lasita for proposing this vote of thanks. And now may I invite Dr. Manisha Kumari to please start your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon to all. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Bala sir. He already pointed out the importance of fossils in day-to-day life. And so for this, and other than Professor Bala, I would like to thank our head of the department, Professor Rajneesh Bhutani, who is continuously motivating and guiding me throughout the preparation of this event. And then actually for this event, or this lecture, I got inspired by Professor M.S. Pandian sir, who the first lecture of the series. And so actually he inspired me to take up this opportunity to conduct this event. So thank you, Professor Pandian. And moreover, I would like to thank Dr. Lasita, my colleague, and PhD scholars of the department, Ms. Mahalakshmi, as well as Mr. Dilip also for helping me and supporting me in the. So this webinar, actually, it is related to paleontology and different aspects of fossil. So through this webinar, actually, I want to motivate students, basically UG and PG level students, for exploring the vast and multidisciplinary and adventurous career opportunities which is available in the field of paleontological scientific research, as well as in the hydrocarbon exploration also. Now I would like to present my slides. So, sir, is it visible? Slide is visible?
Yes, slide is visible. You can make it in a full slide mode.
Full, okay. Okay, so now I think it is.
Yeah, it is fine now.
Okay. Okay, so the webinar is on practical and commercial applications of fossils. So just this is today is the first day.
May I just interrupt you for a minute,
Yeah,
Dr.
sure.
Manisha?
Okay, sir.
I see our Honorable Vice Chancellor is there. May I, sir, are you there?
I'm there. I was wondering if I could myself disrupt the speaker.
No, sir. We were eagerly waiting for you. Without hearing your inspiring words, it will not be. Oh, I mean, this event is not worth having, if I can say so. So may I now request you to, sir, say a few words for all the students and for all of us here who are eagerly waiting for your words, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for allowing me to join in straight away. I am at the very onset. Let me apologize for being a little late because something came out of my tooth yesterday while eating dal, nothing else. But a small filling came out. I thought it's better to have it done straight away rather than allowing that wedge to grow. And when I was getting that thing done today, I was remembering fossils because tooth is also like a fossil, and so I got that done and came here. So I'm very delighted that you have organized this and commercial application of fossils for the benefit of youngsters. Very useful topic because fossil word is very common, and these days it is more in use because of fossil fuels that we often talk about. I'm glad that we have Professor Balakrishnan here, Professor Pandian is here, Dean of the school, and Professor Rajneesh Bhutani, Head of the department. I think ever since he's taken over, he's infusing a new life, organizing very useful seminars and webinars, I'll say. And Dr. Lasita, who had just started her talk, and then I came in. As I said, I'm very happy that this is being organized, and it is through topics of this kind that people would generate an interest in topics like this. So I'm sure the webinar will be very useful for everybody, and the youngsters will benefit out of this. I have few questions to ask. I don't know how many youngsters will be able to answer, but I can give you I don't know, fossils you all know, but if I tell you, I can give you a step-by-step guide to become a fossil. That straight away would be, step 1 is to die. I said step by step. So nobody has questioned me, sir, what is the second step? You know, when you die, the matter is over. I mean, why should you bother about second step? So step by step, in guiding how to become a fossil, the first step is you have to die. And we say, you know, I was wondering, I was thinking what to say. I was wondering, I wish I could become a fossil. Why? Because, you know, only then some people would dig at me. Some people would dig me. And that's what we say, he takes a good dig at the other fellow and tries to find out what is it. I don't know whether you have studied the other related branches or not, but what do you call a pirate that digs for fossils? We say archaeologist, or we better carry out in a different way, archaeologist. And what do you call a scientist who specializes in ancient canny fossils rather? So you will say barchaeologist or barchaeologist, the way you break the word into different syllables and you come out at the other things. So fossils are very important topics. I don't know how many of you would be able to answer what is the living fossil which we see every day around. That's a cockroach. I don't know how many of you would know. Right from ancient days to this goes on, and there are a lot of lighter ways in which one can talk about fossils. Some are only for adults, which I will not put it here. Maybe when I get some other chance only to talk to the faculty, I'll give them a lot of good tongue twisters on fossils. Not one, maybe 50 plus. So we wait for another day when we have a meeting in the Earth Sciences department with the faculty. And that's some of those few things you can even print in your and put it on your table. You'll always have a very healthy time, because if you remember something good, something healthy, you know, you tend to perform better, you tend to do better, and you tend to think better, and better ideas will always get fostered in your minds. So I'm very glad Professor Rajneesh Bhutani has taken the lead in this. And as I said, all three, I don't know how many of you have read a very famous novel called Three Musketeers. It is, if you read the preface, you will probably know what is it. So I can say the three stalwarts of the department. I said Three Musketeers and three stalwarts: Professor Balakrishnan, Professor Pandian, the dean, and head of the department, Rajneesh Bhutani. These three are doing a remarkable work, which I really appreciate, and put it on record that good webinars are being organized. I'm sure youngsters would interact with these speakers and benefit out of this. All the very best, and enjoy your interactions and lectures by various speakers. Carry on, Losita, please. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Your words are always uplifting as usual, and this is what I was mentioning to all the participants, that so motivating and inspiring leader we have. And because of you, Professor Pandian also mentioned that it was all because of your ideas that we could think of organizing such outreach program which could reach out to student community all over the country. It is not limited to only our department or our university, but this is the bigger vision that you have which is guiding us. So we, from the behalf of Department of Earth Sciences, thank you. I mean, this is all teamwork that our department is trying to do. All of us are trying our part to make it as good as possible, and we hope that we will continue to receive your encouragement and your guidance like this. Thank you so much, sir. Now may I request Dr. Manisha Kumari to please continue with your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I'm extremely grateful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor Gurmeet Singh, sir, for his encouraging. Thank you, sir. Okay, so now I'm presenting my slides. So, sir, is it
Yeah, this is fine. You go ahead, please.
okay? So this is the. What is happening? Okay, this is my first slide. Title is Exploring Fossil Facts. So actually we are going to know about something related to fossils, about the fossil, how do they form, and so about those things. So now this first picture, actually this is a photograph of an extinct animal which is known as ammonite, which was belonging to phylum Mollusca. Very common example of this molluscan group is our gastropods. Gastropod in Hindi we call that shank, and generally we are using that shank for at auspicious occasion and puja. So this is belonging to that community, and it got extinct during that Cretaceous mass extinction event, Cretaceous tertiary KT boundary at transitional phase during Cretaceous and tertiary. So during that mass extinction event, this got extinct. But this particular species, it was living during the Calovian. So it is there is a term in geology, index fossils. So this is a kind of very good index fossil which shows the particular age, a particular time period. So if anywhere we found this fossil, so that means that was deposited or formed, that particular part of the sequence was formed during the that Calovian time period, which is a middle part of the Jurassics. Jurassics, it is very well known to everybody because of the film Jurassic Park. And dinosaurs, so dinosaurs were abundant during Jurassics and Cretaceous. So this is ammonite. This particular species name is renekite. Renekite is a index fossils from Calovian. And this particular picture, I took it from Jaisalmer. Jaisalmer, most part of the Jaisalmer exposed part that got formed during the Jurassic period under the marine condition. So that is just one aspect of application of fossil. So with the help of fossil, we can know about the past life, and as well as we can interpret the paleo environment also, what kind of environment was prevailing during the formation period. So that is another aspect. So now why fossils are so important? Just I will read out this slide. Geological time scale, which is basic for the geologist. So geological time scale, it was established completely on the fossils. Paleo-environmental interpretations are mainly based on the fossil assemblages. Then Wagner's continental drift theory, or more popularly it is known as paleogeographical reconstruction or plate tectonics. So that was based on the distribution of fossils in different geographical locations. Then the extensive evidence in support of both fact as well as theory of evolution and extinction, that comes primarily from the studies of the fossil records. Then studies of, then these are the general aspects, but from India, there are so many significant contributions towards the fossil and related applications. So only one, very few I'm listing over here. So studies of cyanobacterial stromatolite, actually stromatolite is a kind of, again, belonging to and popularly like in Udaipur region, phosphate mines are there. So that is actually basically stromatolitic phosphorite. So studies of cyanobacterial stromatolites leading to fixing of age of the crucial stratigraphical horizons in Kumaon Himalayan region by K.S. Waldia. Deccan Volcanic Province, the age of Deccan Volcanic Province as well as the paleo-environmental analysis that was done, actually that was done fossils which are associated with these volcanic rocks. Generally what happens, volcanic rock, igneous kind of rock, there is no fossil preserved or found within these rocks because of these rocks are formed under very high temperature pressure conditions, whether it is extrusive or intrusive. But in Deccan Volcanic Province, there are some sedimentary beds which got deposited in between two different layers of volcanic, like one volcanic layer formed, then there was some time gap. So during that time gap, another flow came and deposited. So during this first flow and second flow, some sediments got deposited, and those sediments containing fossils. So based on the ages of fossil, the Deccan volcanic flows, below Deccan volcanic flow, below the Deccan volcanic province and above the Deccan volcanic province, fossils are there. So based on the ages of those fossils, so basically those sedimentary beds, intertrappean beds, because it is trapped between two different flows. So intertrappean beds, technically it is called. So intertrappean beds are containing various kinds of fossil, mega, like for example, many dinosaur bones are coming from those intertrappean beds, as well as so many microfossils. So age as well as their paleo-environmental interpretation, that was initially it was done based on fossil forms associated, fossil that is coming from those intertrappean beds. Then economically, fossils are economically also the fossils are too important. Example like limestone, cement, very common example of that economic deposit of fossil limestones. Very good grade limestones are used in fossil, that is used in economically used, that is used in cement industry, and those limestones were formed organically. So that is basically, formed organically means it was like most of the creature's hard part that is made up of calcium carbonate. So after that, after death of the animal, those got deposited and later on converted after following diagenetic process, those converted into different kind of deposits, whether it is if single or separated ones. So fossil otherwise like limestone deposit, then chalk, again chalk is a kind of calcium carbonate deposit. Then oozes, different type of oozes, that is basically biologically derived deposits. Phosphorite, very common example and important example, and we have one Jamarkot rock phosphate mine in Udaipur area, which is basically stromatolitic kind of deposits are there, so phosphorite. Then everybody knows about the fossil fuel. Just now our Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir also mentioned about the fossil fuel. So fossil fuel, it is known as or called fossil fuel because whatever hydrocarbon, whether it is coal or crude oil or natural gas, those are actually the organic remains, major organic remains that was converted into different kind of fuels, different kind of hydrocarbons. So that is fossil fuel. Then geoheritage sites, many places worldwide, we have many places which developed as geoheritage site or geotourism site. just for example, these three figures, these three pictures, this is the National Park of Arizona, pictures of National Park of Arizona. So where these are actually, these were during the Cretaceous, these were during the Cretaceous period. That part was having tropical rainforest, and later on, because of changes in climatic condition, the whole rainforest, very dense rainforest, that got and converted into plant fossils, and now people developed region as a geo tourist place. So this is the National Park, Arizona, USA. Now Professor Bala sir, he has mentioned about the Tiruvakkarayi. So this is picture from Tiruvakkarayi. This is not actual dinosaur remain, but it is miniature kind of thing. There they are developing one fossil wood park. So they have, and that place, Aryalur, basically, that overall it is known as Tiruchinapalli. Tiruchinapalli, that is part of that Tiruchinapalli, age-wise belonging to, most part of the Tiruchinapalli is belonging to Cretaceous. And Cretaceous is known as, during Cretaceous period, dinosaurs were very common. So this picture is from that park. And then this is wood fossil, again Satanur area, same, almost it is near to this place. This is tertiary deposit actually. So GSI, Geological Society, Geological Survey of India, they developed in Satanur region, they have developed one national fossil wood park, and where they have displayed so many fossilized tree trunks. And then this one is Akal Fossil Park from Jaisalmer, belonging to mostly these tree fossils belonging to middle Mesozoic, Jurassic and Cretaceous age. So Akal Fossil Park. Now coming to this paleontology. So what is paleontology? In a simple word, or in one word, it is one sentence, it is paleontology is the scientific study of whole history of life on Earth. So from starting, like we know that the age of Earth is 4.6 billion years approximately. So Earth was born around 4.6 billion years, and then first rock formed around. So initially it was having very hot molten condition, then gradually it was cooled down. So properly cooling down, that was taken around 1,000 billion years. So 4.6 years, so to 3. Almost around 3.6 billion years. So we have first solidified rock evidence around approximately it was around 3.8 billion years old. And just after once solidification of rocks started, then almost along with that, not simultaneously, but almost just little later of that, first life originated on Earth. First life evolved on Earth. So there were so many conditions, like initially it was having a toxic kind of atmosphere, then some chemical reactions taken place, then that amino acid and some paleoprotein kind of chemicals formed from those chemicals, then unicellular life originated on Earth. So proper evidence of life on Earth was around 3.6 billion years old. So, and that was belonging to anaerobic kind of unicellular life, which is known as archaea. So Archean, archaea was the age of the archaea, it was around 3.6 billion years old. So that was the first proper life evidence on Earth. So now the paleontology. So paleontology, it is the scientific study of prehistoric life, before history, whatever was happening on Earth. So that is the major subject matter of the paleontology. So that is the paleontology. Now, divisions of paleontology. Paleontology, there are two major divisions which are based on the types, and another is based on the size. So based on the type, we know we are having two kinds of kingdom, living beings kingdom. One is kingdom, one is animals kingdom. So plant kingdom in paleontology or ancient time period also, we were having same kind of divisions. So paleo means and then botany. So if we study the ancient plant kingdom, then we call that branch paleobotany. Study the animal of ancient time, then we call that paleozoology. Then paleozoology, again, it has been divided into two parts. One is invertebrate, studying about the invertebrate community, and vertebrate, studying about the vertebrate community. Then based on size, we have two different branches, macrofossils and microfossils, or megafossil and microfossils. So megafossil means generally we can study without any kind of additional add, like hand specimen we can identify and details we can see. So we can study without any kind of support, that is megafossils. And microfossils, they are actually too minute, too small in size. So we need some kind of additional add or additional support, for example, microscopes. So that is microfossils. So now we will explore about the fossil facts. And again, this one picture here, this picture is from Jurassic of Kutch, the completely fossilized bed. It is basically limestone kind of, and these are the, you can see this fragment like, so all these are fossils. So it is completely formed by the fossil. So technically we call it fossiliferous limestone or shelly limestone, because it is completely made up of shells, invertebrate shells. So now fossils, what are the fossils? So fossils or traces of ancient life. It is not only remains, but these are the traces also, organic activities traces of ancient life that have been preserved by natural processes. So there is one term, natural processes. So whatever, like artificially, if we preserve something, for example, Egyptian mummies, so those are not the part of this fossil community, because that is not naturally preserved, that is artificially preserved or artificially formed. So fossils are naturally preserved organic remains and is evidence of past life, from spectacular skeletons to tiny seashells. Like we have very big dinosaurs, as well as we are having, even nowadays, we are studying the nanofossils also in microns size, micrometer size. So imprints, tracks and trails, they are also becoming, they are also transforming into fossils. For example, like dinosaur footprint or worm burrows or impressions. So fossils are important because they tell us about the, they tell us a story about the things that lived on the earth before us. So prehistoric life, it is study of prehistoric life. Then oldest fossil discovered on earth is stromatolite, which is around 3.6, basically it was 3.6 billion years old. Cabbage-like algae, stromatolite. It is Archaeopteryx, which is considered as the link between reptile group and avian group, bird group. So this is Archaeopteryx. It was existing, or it was living during Jurassic, and that time itself it got extinct. And then this is invertebrate shell, Brachiopoda. Then this is stromatolite. Actually, this again, this picture is from that Udaipur phosphorite mine. So these are the stromatolites. This is again ammonite. This is dinosaur footprint, and this one very unique kind of fossil, that is insect, which is preserved within the umber. Umber is a kind of tree resin or tree sap, so that is preserved within the umber. So this is insect. Now types of fossils. We have mainly we are having two types of fossils. One is body fossil or true form fossil, which is known as true form fossil or body fossil. And so these are the pictures of true form fossil or body fossil. Body fossils, actually, it is part of the body. Sometimes what happens, the whole body is fossilized, or that is getting preserved as fossil. For example, this insect, or like this small coin-like shape you can see here. So this is actually nummullite from, again it is from Kutch. Age-wise it is belonging to tertiary, Paleogene, Neogene. So these are the nummullitic nummullites, foraminifera, belonging to foraminifera. It is belonging to microfossil group, but few exceptions are there, and it is having slightly larger size, so we can study it in hand specimen also. So nummullites, it is large sized animals, completely extinct group of fossil again. Completely extinct, though the foraminifers, other representatives are in the present day sea, but this particular nummullites, these got extinct. So nummullite, this is ammonite, again molluscan group, again it is kind of extinct fossil, and this is very familiar to us. This is Neanderthal, our ancestor skull, fossilized skull. Fish, first vertebrate on fish fossil, dinosaur fossil, sauropod. Dinosaur bones, again it is discovered, these bones discovered from some place from California. Trilobite, one extinct group of animal. This was living during the Paleozoic period, and Paleozoic, that Permo-Triassic mass extinction, Permian at the transitional phase from Permian to Triassic, one largest mass extinction occurred. So during that mass extinction, these trilobites got extinct. Very important index fossil. Dinosaur, again very common form, very common fossil form, dinosaur skull. And then this one, this is a kind of plant fossil, Vertebraria. And this fossil, again, it is coming from our own Trichinopalli region, Gondwana fossil. So age-wise, Cretaceous. It is belonging to Cretaceous. This two picture I took it from one book. Here is a living mammoth. Mammoth means living elephant's jaw apparatus or jaw structure, and this our ancestral elephant jaw. So just for comparing, so this is fossilized jaw of elephant. So these are actually okay, this one is insect, complete intact insect got trapped within this umber and fossilized. So this is a kind of body fossil. So technical definition of body fossil: whole body preserved, whole body got fossilized, or a small part of the body. Small part of body gets fossilized. For example, this bone or this leaf, these are also a kind of body fossil because it was the part of animal's body. This is body fossil, and this is whole animal, this is whole animal, this is whole animal. So these are the examples of body fossil. Another major group is the trace fossil. trace fossil means these are not the actual body part. These are related to animals' activity only. So organism behavior, they are based on the or showing the organism behavior, their eating habit, about their habitats, relationship with each other. I mean, like social kind of thing. So these are the traces of different kind of organisms, different activities. So trace fossils. Again, from Udaipur, this is stromatolites. Stromatolite actually, it is, I mean, animal of this group, stromatolitic group. Those are the blue, green, or red green algae. So very minute size, nanometer size. But they are actually colonial animals. They are making colonies and living. They are spending social life, so they are making colonies, and so these are the remains of the colonies, algae colony. So algal remains, we call this stromatolites. Then this is the coprolite, faces of some kind of dinosaur animal. Then this is burrows, different burrows, tracks, footprint. This is another kind of footprint. This is egg nest. So if we have fossilized egg, then that fossilized egg will be part of body fossil, but this is the nesting. So this nest is a kind of trace fossil. So fossilized egg is a kind of body fossil because it is part of living body, and this nest is not part of the living. So this is a kind of their behavioral trace. So this is a trace fossil. This is gastrolith. Another common example, gastrolith, these are actually stones. So stones, how it is related to fossilized community. These stones actually dinosaur kind of animal, mean larger animal community, prehistoric time. After eating food, they used to swallow the stones, small size, depending upon the animal's size, body size. They used to take these kind of stones, and they used inside their stomach, intestine, they used to grind the food, whatever they ate. So with help of these stones, they used to grind the food, like that idli dosa batter. So same way they used to grind with. So these are the fossilized gastroliths. So another kind of trace fossils, though these are belonging to stone or rock community, but it is part of our fossil community also. So now another kind of fossil is index fossil, which is very, very important for paleontologists. Index fossils. Again, technical definition of index fossil. The animals which were widely distributed, which were geographically many places living, but age-wise they were living for very duration. So many places they were living, but living for very short duration, and after death, if they got fossilized, transformed into fossil, then they become index fossils. So we use term index fossil for those kind of fossils. So living, existing for very short duration, geologically for very short duration, and geographically for very widely distributed, geographically widely distributed community of animals. So those are considered as index fossils. And index fossils are very important for hydrocarbon exploration also, and for other kind of applications of fossils also. So just this example, this I already told you, Renekite, ammonite species, typical form of Calobian. So if anywhere we found this Renekite, that shows the horizons or sequence age as Calobian. Then this is another kind of ammonite. Then this is Trilobite. Again, it is Paleozoic, confined to Paleozoic. So if we find this fossil anywhere, that means that particular sequence deposited or formed during the Paleozoic. So index fossils. So index fossil, like in this picture, you can see this trilobite. So everywhere it is occurring. Then this bivalve, it is, or brachiopoda, it is everywhere it is occurring, but it is common in more than one sequence. I mean, more than one horizon. So we cannot take it as index fossil because it is long-ranging form. So, but this trilobite, it is confined to one horizon only. So this can be considered as index fossil. Same way like ammonite. So this is the index fossil. Living fossil, sir told, our vice chancellors told about something about cockroaches and all. So this is that example. So cockroaches kind of thing, living fossils are known as living fossil. Living fossil means like they started their life or they evolved on Earth long back during geological past, and still they are surviving present day condition, environmental condition and all other conditions without much changes. So without any kind of adaptive radiation or any kind of morphological modification, still they are surviving. Means they are surviving the original characters, whatever characters were there during their evolutionary stage, they are surviving with that original characters. So these are very common example of living fossil. One is Nautilus, one is Lingula. Lingula belonging to Brachiopoda, and this Nautilus, it is belonging to molluscan, Cephalopoda, class of mollusca phylum, Cephalopoda class. So in Cephalopoda class, we have ammonites, which is a very good index fossil. Very they live for or existing for very short time period. And molluscan group or Cephalopoda group, they are having living fossil also, which were started their life during Cambrian, almost around 540 million years back, and still present day see they are surviving. These groups are completely marine group of organisms. They are living only in the marine, under marine condition in oceans. So they started their life in Cambrian seas, and without any major significant change, morphology change, still they are surviving in the present day. Same thing is there with Lingula. Lingula is known as living fossil. This group also started their life during Cambrian, still living in the present day sea, benthos kind of condition. These are actually swimmers, but these group of fossil, Lingula group of fossils are benthic. They are living on the surface or within the surface, inside the surface, that meaning of the benthic forms. Now, how does this fossil forms? Fossils are like, so these are few steps of fossil formations. This is sir again told about me, our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir. He again told after death what will happen. That death means death. But we paleontologists trying to find out what happened after the death of the animal. Before death of the animal, that is the subject matter of history people. So we paleontologists, geologist people, we are trying to find out what happened with particular organism or particular animal or particular group of animal after their death. So how does they form? How do they form? So these are few steps, like organism living after some time, death of the organism. So dead body of organism, it was settled down on the floor. So aquatic environment like marine condition is most common for the fossilization. It is very favorable. Marine condition is very favorable condition for fossilization. But another kind of aquatic environments are also there, and sometime in continental condition also, but that is rare chances. So animals death after, death body of animal, it is settled on the floor of this like pond or ocean. and then it was there. It was settled on there, and then it got buried during death settlement, and then it was buried within the sediments, load of sediments. And during this course, the whole course, some decompositions were also going on. So it happened, some decompositions occurred. So soft body part that completely got decomposed. Then here still loads are increasing, and then it is getting buried deeper to earth, deeper part of the earth. So because of this burial and load of sediments, some kind of temperature pressure condition got changed, increasing slightly. So because of those pressure temperature which is known as that process is known as diagenetic process. So diagenesis, because of that diagenetic process, the hard body part like bone, because soft body part at the initial stage is so hard body part which is little resistant for decomposition. So this got buried, temperature pressure condition. So after experiencing that diagenetic process, this is converted into fossil. So this is the process of fossilization: animal's death, burial, then it is stayed buried for longer duration, and then finally, because of temperature pressure change, it is converted into fossil. So now conditions which are promoting fossilization or requirement of for the fossilization. So like dead body, whatever dead body, whether it is belonging to plant kingdom or belonging to animal kingdom, they should have hard part. Like for example, in plant kingdom we have stems of plants and we have leaves. So chances are more for stem part to get fossilized than the leaves, because leaves are mainly made up of some kind of phloem, xylem, and all those mean soft tissues, soft cells. So chances are more for stem part. Same way, animal body, soft tissues or soft body parts very rarely we get as fossil, getting fossilized. And hard body part like bone or hard body part like bone, for example, bone or some kind of, in case of invertebrates, they are having hard external casing. So those are mostly getting preserved or mostly fossilized. So these are certain conditions. Hard body there, then they should get buried very quickly. So that will be decomposition will be less, and they should stay buried for longer period, and then avoid oxygen. So anaerobic condition, like here you can body, it is getting buried, stayed buried for a longer duration, then most of the part got decomposed, and then finally the hardest part of the body that got preserved, and then finally excavated as fossil. Now the modes of preservation of fossil. So there are two types of fossils we get. One is altered kind of remains and one is unaltered kind of remains. Unaltered kind of, we get the original body material, whether it is tissues or soft cells. So everything intact, complete body transformed into fossils. So there are certain ways or certain processes by which a dead body transformed into fossils. So first process is known as incrustation. Incrustation means common example is this kind of fossils, small insect that got entrapped within amber, and then this umber got fossilized, and later on now we found this umber, fossilized umber. So within this fossilized umber, we have this soft, insect whole intact body, fossilized body. So even scientists are able to recover the DNA, very smaller molecular structures also from this kind of preserved fossil remains. These are belonging to this particular is from it is from Eocene time period. So many million years old, but still scientists are able to recover the DNA, and they are trying to do DNA sequencing with the help of this DNA. So this is this process is known as incrustation or entombment, where it is entrapped between within the this kind of plant sac or umber, and then later on fossilized. Another two processes are mummification and refrigeration. Mummification generally occurring where temperature is too high, like in some desert kind of condition where temperature is too high, and so just after the death of the animal, that is the animal's dead body, that is all liquid kind of thing, that is dried out very fast. So only the hard body part and their soft tissues without any kind of liquid, that is left out. And refrigeration, it is the entrapment of dead body of animal within the ice sheet. So inside ice sheet, the dead body of animal got entrapped, and later on it is getting fossilized. So that process is known as, so this is incrustation, trapped within umber. Mummification in temperature regions, generally it is occurring where all liquid kind of liquid material that is dried out and only tissues and bones are left out. And then refrigeration, that is happening in the very cold climate, very less temperature regions. Like at present we are having Antarctica region. So this is common, very well known example of this is one well known example of that kind of refrigeration kind of preservation. This is mammoth, woolly mammoth, which was found from Siberia in 2014, and the name of this mammoth is Yucca. So here you can see the whole body of this ancient elephant. It is completely preserved. The whole body got preserved or fossilized. Each and every detail we can see, even eyes, ears, soft tissues, hair. So each and everything, so whole intact body got fossilized. So this is a good example of freezing. But these getting this type original material, fossilized original material, it is very rarest form of fossilization, and we have very limited example of this kind of fossils. Next is altered preservation. Altered preservation. So actually the original, animal died, dead body of the, so the original material of animal, it is transformed into or changed into new material. So that is meaning of the altered preservation, which is a most common type of fossilization. There are again certain processes by which this fossilization occur. These are mainly known as permineralization, replacement, carbonization, and casts and mold. So what happens in permineralization, like whatever hard body part, whether it is bone or in plant kingdom, it is like stem. So we have void spaces during when animal is alive. During that time, those void spaces are filled with some kind of liquid or air. And after death of the animal, those liquid and air kind of thing that is dried out. So only void spaces left out among for that dead body. Later on, the void spaces. So after once dead body is there, then that got buried. So after burial, because of so many natural processes are going on after burial also. So there is one major process, that is groundwater circulation. So because of groundwater, so what happens? The void spaces of this buried body part, void spaces of this buried body part, it got filled by that groundwater. And later on, so groundwater at different places, different groundwaters are there. So sometimes this groundwater is enriched with some kind of minerals. So those minerals are later on those who are getting in these wide spaces. So like that way this kind of fossils form. So that process is known as permineralization or petrification. So mostly this kind of process is occurring with this bony structures or plant stem also. So this is one example of permineralization. It is a permineralized bryozone from Devonian. So next is replacement. Replacement and recrystallization. Replacement or recrystallization means we most of the hard part, it is made up of calcium. So calcite, actually calcite or aragonite. So in this process, in replace the less stable part, whatever the original component or original chemical composition, so less stable mineral replaced by more stable mineral. For example, if it is aragonite, some shells are made up of aragonite, which is a little less stable form of calcite. So that aragonite, that will be replaced by the more stable calcite or different kind of more stable form like silica, pyrite, dolomite. Many types of mineralization are there. So the original component, chemical component, that got replaced by more stable forms. So that process is known as planetary crystallization. So this is a kind of example of a petrified wood. This is a kind of replacement, example of replacement. This is also recrystallization, like atom by atom replaced. Single atom is replaced by the more stable mineral. So recrystallization. This is carbonization and coalification. Carbonization, sometimes what happens, like dead body, it is trapped between the sediments. So below the body sediment is there, above the body sediment is there. So the animal's body that is getting entrapped within this sediment, and load is increasing because of that increased load. That is getting, whatever liquid kind of thing or volatile substance like hydrogen, other than carbon, everything dried out from the body. So only black thin carbon film structure is left out. So it is a kind of impression on the sediment. So here this is leaf. This is one belonging to Arthropoda community, Arthropoda phylum. This is lycopode. So these are the examples of carbonization, and that process is known as carbonization, where only the original body material converted into thin film of carbon, black colored carbon. So that is known as carbonization, and then qualification. This is qualified lycopode. Now cast and mold. So once the animal's dead body, it got so the original skeleton material, calcium carbonate or whatever the material is, so that got decomposed, and the original material got decomposed, and only one hollow space is left out later on, because of again groundwater and other underground natural processes. That hollow space is filled with other kind of sediments. So those kind of form is known as cast and mold. So when only this impression is left out on the sediment, so then we call this kind of impression is cast, and then this is mold, when that cavity or void space is filled, and that is actually the impression of the animals that is actually printed on that top of that. So that is mold. So cast and mold kind of preservation. So altered preserve, which is most common kind of fossilization process, and these are different processes: permineralization, replacement, carbonization, and casts and mold. So why do we need to study fossils? So life is life is unique for each interval of time because of the evolution and extinction, and it is a unidirectional change. So life on Earth, if anything happens or any changes happens with the living community, so that is unidirectional. But evolution and development and radiation of life on Earth, that is a kind of unidirectional change. Other natural events like any other geological event, volcano or earthquake or whatever, mountain building, plate tectonics, everything, those are throughout the geological history. Those events are repeating events, but changes in life, that is unidirectional. So we can arrange the event on Earth in a framework that is based on the fossils. Another thing is fossil can give us clue about the organism that lived long ago. We don't have any living representative of those groups also. Even we can know about, with the help of fossil, we can know about those animals also. They help show that evolution as well as extinction that has occurred during the geological past. Then fossils are providing us the evidence about how Earth's surface has changed over time. Different kind of changes taken place, like environmental change or geographical change. So for all these kind of changes, fossils are able to provide the evidences for this kind of changes that happened on Earth during the geological past. So now the importance of fossils, or actually practical applications of fossils, are practically how we can apply the fossils. So this is geological time scale, the basis for the development of geology, that is geological time scale. It is this is the arrangement of events, arrangement of natural events in a scale, whatever happened during the geological past, starting from around 4.6 billion years back till now, whatever is happening on Earth. So that is arrangement of those events in a scale that is known as geological time scale. So this geological time scale establishment or this geological time scale was based on the fossil evidences. So fossil-based framework of Earth history, that is known as geological scale, and the major as well as minor boundaries also of this time scale is marked by some kind of bio events. So major changes like this is Proterozoic, this is Precambrian, and this is Post-Cambrian Phanerozoic, Cryptozoic, and Phanerozoic. Even the nomenclature of geological time scale also, that is initially it was the life whatever existing during that particular time. So for example, this part is known as Cryptozoic up to around 540 million years, from 4.6 billion years to 540 million years, grouped as Cryptozoic, and 540 million years to 0 years. 0 years means present day. So present day, so this whole is grouped as Phanerozoic. Cryptozoic, meaning of the term, literal meaning of the term Cryptozoic is the hidden life, not visible life, or hidden life, not distinct life. And the Phanerozoic means distinct life. So this part of Earth, though it covers almost around 80% of the duration of Earth, from 4.6 billion years to 540 million years, so almost 4 billion years coverage is there. But life-wise, very primitive life were existing during this time period, and then proper, well-developed, distinct life evolved after this boundary. So this Precambrian, and this is Phanerozoic distinct life. So this Cambrian, Precambrian and Cambrian boundary. This boundary also marked by a major change that occurred within the living community, animal community, and that event is known as Cambrian explosion. So before this Cambrian explosion, or before this boundary, during this time period, only primitive life form were existing, like acellular, then cellular became multicellular, soft body. There was no any hard body part developed till now. But all of a sudden, after this, at the end of the Precambrian, beginning of the Cambrian, so all of a sudden everything evolved on Earth. On Earth means all life forms began in water only, ocean, within ocean, but all of a sudden appeared in the ocean. So that event is known as Cambrian explosion. So almost whatever we have a living representative now, whether it is belonging to animal kingdom, whether it is belonging to plant kingdom, or fungi, mean unicellular, prokaryote, eukaryote, whatever is there existing, all of those ancestors were evolved during this Cambrian explosion, and later on changes were there, modifications, adaptations, all those changes were happening. So this is the major event, and this Precambrian Cambrian boundary is marked by that Cambrian explosion. So major change occurred within the living community of the Earth. And same way, like this is Paleozoic and this is Mesozoic. Paleozoic, Mesozoic boundary, last part of Paleozoic, Permian, and beginning of the Mesozoic, Triassic. At the end of the Permian and the beginning of the Triassic, which is known as Permo-Triassic boundary, another largest mass extinction happened. Like this was the Cambrian explosion, where most of the life forms evolved, almost all the life forms evolved on Earth during this period. But here another one major mass extinction, largest ever mass extinction, occurred at this transitional phase from Permian to Triassic. So mass extinction, all of a sudden the major community, living community died out. So that process is known as mass extinction. So that mass extinction taken place during this Permo-Triassic boundary, transitional phase from Permian to Triassic. And this one was the largest ever mass extinction, and only 10% whatever living animal, plant, whatever living during this time period. So almost 90% died out, only 10% survived this mass extinction, and later on diversified from those 10% survived forms. Then, so Permo-Triassic mass extinction. So this whole geological time scale, development of time scale, as well as refinement of time scale and relative ages of the rock sequences, all are based on the fossil evidences. So Permian-Triassic, Permo-Triassic mass extinction, then KT boundary, KT mass extinction event, second largest mass extinction event, then few more are there. Then so this is the application of one major application of fossil. So we can find out the relative ages and other. Now fossil provide evidence of evolution and extinction. So evolution, there are two kinds of, or two meanings of this term evolution. One is first appearance of any group of organism on earth, and then second is their modification or development of that particular organism. So that is the meaning of evolution. So for example, on earth, or first appeared during the Precambrian, and then gradually development of life was there. So that is also kind of evolution. So first some chemical component was there, then became acellular, then they became hard body part, then external, later on they modified, and they from external hard body part, exoskeleton, it became internal, like we are having skeleton, so endoskeleton. So those changes, first appearance and then modification of life or modification within the community, so that we can study based on the fossil study, or evidences of these kind of changes provided by the fossils. So just like different changes, evolutionary as well as marked on this time scale. Like initially, Ediacaran was a period of uppermost part of Proterozoic, where very soft bodied animal without any hard part, those kind of organisms were living, and later on that impression kind of that fossilized. So that time only worms, jellyfish, corals, those type of forms were living. Then after this Cambrian explosion, hard part, all those things during Ordovician, land plants evolved. Before this Ordovician, life was there within the ocean. Then they migrated, they have migrated onto the land. Then and Ordovician, one major mass extinction, first ever mass extinction occurred during the end Ordovician. Then mass extinction, late Devonian. Then like this we can arrange the different events, evolutionary or extinction or developmental events, we can arrange based on the evidences provided by the fossils. So then phylogeny of life, which is basically based on the again fossil evidence. So initially life was evolved here as acellular life, then they became acellular. Acellular, there are two divisions among the acellular life also, unicellular life also, prokaryote, archaea and eubacteria. Archaea and eubacteria both are the kind of bacteria, but archaeobacteria, these are actually the anaerobic bacteria. So this kind of bacteria or archaea, it is developed in anoxic environment. They don't need any kind of oxygen. Without oxygen, they are growing. So initially on the earth, first archaea evolved, and then from archaea gradually, slowly they evolved into eubacteria or simply bacteria. So archaeobacteria and eubacteria, but normally we call archaea and bacteria. So archaea is a kind of bacteria that anaerobic bacteria. Then they became aerobic, means photosynthesis started from gradually development or evolutionary, different evolutionary changes occurred. So they became that photosynthetic bacteria.
Hello everyone. We are so sorry that we are facing this network outage here. The lecture would anyway would be continuing tomorrow, and I apologize for this network outage. And let us meet again at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you for participating, and I hope that we will be able to continue at 3 p.m. tomorrow. And yeah, thank you everyone for participating. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.